Much better.
We'll try that one last time. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, so much better. I think it's the cloudy weather, but we will warm up as we do get in with our coffee. Lovely to have you here. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Mobiri. How are you?
I am exceptionally great.
Looking good.
Same. I will definitely say you look exceptional.
Thank you. Thank you. So I had to represent Ghana here today. This is a designer from Ghana. Any Ghanaians in the house today?
Raise your hand.
You know, Ghanaians are like Nigerians. We're everywhere.
And yes, I am in the blue, black, and white ensemble of Botswana, as you will be. So thank you so much for all those who have traveled, Sandra, yourself included.
It is great to be here with you all, and what a beautiful country, Mobiri. Botswana, you know, I've heard so much about Botswana, but it is incredible to be here. So far, everyone that I've met has been amazing, and what a beautiful story.
Can we get a round of applause for that?
What a beautiful story. So I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but Mobiri, I just want to say what up today.
It is a pleasure to be co-hosting Elevate Africa Day 2. Remember, we are all gathered here from all parts of Africa. Partnerships in the new era. Integrity is the new paragraph. All that messaging is what we are speaking about throughout this conference under the theme, the next chapter.
Next chapter. And you know, I just have to say, when I met Mobiri, he said, you know, Sandra, within the first 5 minutes, he let me know that he is a mining baby. Okay, now when he said that, I said, wait, you got some diamonds for me or something? What do you mean you're a mining baby? But what he meant by that was that he was born in a mining town here in Botswana, raised through the opportunities created by Botswana's mining industry, and today is still contributing to the story of growth and national progress. And you know, I just have to say how much I love that story, right? Because it represents the story of so many people here in Botswana. And I think your country is such a beautiful example and a shining light, a great model for what we as Africans can do with our natural resources, right?
Certainly. A huge round of applause for Botswana. And Sandra here, I think, describes us very well.
But before you go further, I'm not done with my intro.
Oh, okay.
So Mobiri here is a communication strategist and the founder of the Launch Group, a growing collective of PR, stakeholder relations, content, and media businesses that serve some of the most respected corporations and institutions in Botswana and across the region. He is also a seasoned master of ceremonies, as you can tell from today. We're going to have a great time. With more than 10 years of experience leading milestone events across Southern Africa, from national investment forums to major corporate announcements to high-level Africa conversations like this one. So Mobiri, such a pleasure to meet you, and I am looking forward to steering this today with you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and thank you for traveling all the way. And for those who are quite curious here, I'm standing here. And I'd like you guys to give her a round of applause and appreciation.
Oh, thank you.
I think a 26-hour flight to get to Botswana, that's quite special. So Botswana is an interesting part of the world. It's a small part of the world, but with a big heart.
Yeah.
And I believe it's an honor to host you, and we've been warm to you. I like to guarantee that has been experienced.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so before we do move on to our program, a little bit about Sandra. She is from the United States, however, born in Ghana, lived in Italy, and then certainly became a star in the United States of America. Sandra launched her first media company at the age of 22 years old, long before it was fashionable to celebrate Africa on the global stage. Today, she runs one of the leading new media platforms, redefining Africa's stories. She advises Fortune 500 companies on entering, understanding African markets. So quite an important role. And earlier this year, she launched a Pan-African politics, and culture podcast that now reaches over 5 million viewers every month. Sandra is telling Africa's story. She's claiming it, shaping it, and amplifying it to the world. I believe your stories featured the beautiful country of Namibia recently.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I'm quite looking forward to more conversations around that.
Thank you. I am really impressed with what is happening on the continent with countries like Namibia. And I just want to really encourage all of us all to continue to follow our stories and to tell our stories. We're here talking about Africa's next chapter. Guess what? Someone has to write that next chapter, right? And it's all of us. So it's really, truly a privilege to be able to see all the great things happening on the continent and to talk about it on my show.
Yep. So I met Sandra yesterday, and interestingly, somebody's like, "You guys look alike." Are you related?
I was like, what?
I was
really?
like, I've never met this woman a day in my life, you know? So it's only God's grace, I guess, we are here. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a little quick selfie as evidence of this monumental moment. So kindly indulge us, okay?
And you know,
best smile.
What do they think? What do you all think? Do we look like twins here? Expert opinion. Yeah?
Where's
No?
the camera? Do we? Resemblance? A little bit?
I see some. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Ghana and Botswana is not too far, right? We can make it work.
We're all related somehow.
So do you guys want to take a selfie now or later? Now. Okay.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know if how to make
Where's
this
your phone?
work. I don't know
Okay.
where my phone is, but I'm sure it can work here.
Yeah.
While we are doing that, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit of rules, house rules to note. I know there has been a big question mark about the internet. There are QR codes on all four corners of the room that you can scan and access the Wi-Fi. You remain connected with the world as it necessarily needs to be. And then when we're speaking about lavatories, bathrooms, they are available at the end of each exit. As you exit at your far end there are bathrooms at the end of the hall. And then as you exit here, there are bathrooms near you. And then from a safety and protocol perspective, if there is a fire alarm, please do rise and you will assemble there will be a fire marshal to guide you to that stage. I think that covers a lot
Great
of
job.
it, right?
Yes. Hopefully there will be no fire though. Hopefully.
No.
Yeah, hopefully we'll end in peace.
We'll make sure there's none.
But Mubiri, so let's talk about yesterday. We had a great start to this conference and had powerful discussions. And after yesterday, I truly feel that the name of this conference should change from Elevate Africa to Elevated Africa.
Elevated Africa.
Elevated
I like
Africa,
that.
because I already feel elevated after the conversations that we had today. But what was your takeaway from yesterday's sessions?
So the irony is that I didn't attend the opening session.
Right,
However,
right.
when I did arrive here, first and foremost, one thing I noticed was how colorful the room was.
Yeah.
Everybody looks African really good, and I believe their majesties were here. You could tell that this is a ceremony worth attending.
And indeed it was. Indeed it was. And today we shall continue. Everyone looks beautiful in the audience today as well. You know, yesterday was incredible, and I just have to highlight a key theme from the conversations yesterday, which was trust, right? And as we talk about Africa's next chapter, we can't build that next chapter without trust. And you know, when you think about why we're here after so many years, right? Why we haven't risen. We were talking about that. How long is Africa going to be rising for? It's time that we rose already. And I think trust is a key component of that, right? And so it was a very important theme that came up yesterday. And I think something that we need to continue to talk about, because without trust, there's no unity, right?
Certainly.
And that lack of unity is why we show up on the global stage as 54 fragmented countries instead of the continental powerhouse that we can be. So Africa's next chapter demands
Trust.
Trust. Right? Do you agree with that? Yes. Ooh, the energy in this room. Do we need more coffee? More coffee? Can we get some more coffee in here, please?
I'm sure the ushers are prepping some coffee, so you will be able to indulge in some coffee just shortly within the program. But at this stage, to reflect, would you like to introduce Daniel to come and do the reflection?
Absolutely. So let's get the show going. So to kick us off today, I'd like to invite the CEO of Elevate Africa, Mr. Daniel Ikwenobi, to give us a quick recap of day one. Thank you,
A
ladies
big
and
round of
gentlemen.
applause for Daniel.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you found time to rest. Many of us had it was quite intense yesterday. We are taking it one foot in front of the other. So welcome to day two. So I'll just do a quick recap. Okay, that's a good time to clap. I saw someone trying to clap. Okay. Thank you. So with your permission, I will just do a read. I have the recap written, so I'll just read it to walk us through everything we did yesterday. So basically, looking at Elevate Africa Convening 2025, day one recap from vision to action. So welcome to day two of the Elevate Africa Convening. Yesterday, under the resonant theme, Africa, the Next Chapter, we began a transformative journey from diagnosing our continent's challenges to boldly describing solutions. We moved from talk to intent, and hopefully at the end of this entire program, we'll move into action. From potential to plans, and from vision to the first steps of execution. The message from our founders, the majesties, and our distinguished speakers was clear and resounding. Africa's destiny belongs to Africans. And our duty is not merely to dream it, but to build it. Brick by brick, with trust as our foundation and action as our craft. And if I'll just speak to that, one of the things that I've come to become excited about is something called the Chandler Prosperity Model. And just having conversations with the Chandler team, talking about how you can make nations prosperous is by building trust-based societies. And so trust is an important ingredient if we're going to see Africa rise. So the first is building trust and governance, which was the first theme, opened with a call to rebuild Africa's systems of governance and collaboration on the foundations of trust and delivery. Her Majesty, the Queen Consort, reminded us that Africa's strength lies in unity, not isolation, urging a shift from islands of excellence to networks of alliance and trust. Mr. Wu Wei-nong of the Chandler Institute of Governance showed that high-performance government is not an accident, but a deliberate construction of capabilities, systems, and culture. And through the policy labs of the next era, delegates turned theory into practice, crafting people-centered, culturally grounded models of reform. Key voices, such as Ms. Edith Akridge from Malawi, Vuyewa Yakara of South Africa, and Representative Kim Schofield of the United States, converged on a central truth. Governance reforms must be citizen-driven, locally informed, and relentlessly executed. So, resolutions on governance from the conversation. Institutionalize a holistic performance architecture across board. Create national coordination units to break silos, track performance, and reward delivery. Cultivate a culture of execution. Train civil servants to master implementation, innovation, and accountability. And lastly, from there, decentralize power to the people. strengthen local governance, devolve resources, and embed citizen-led policy labs across communities. From raw material to Africa's value creation. A powerful theme of the day was the urgent call to end Africa's dependency on exporting raw materials to building value chains within Africa. The Natural Resources and Sovereign Wealth Panel, moderated by Sandra Babu Batong, brought together sector experts Aisha Mena and Dr. Mzi Fula Ngege and Ron Cherry to confront the continent's paradox of plenty. Its failure to translate vast natural wealth into shared prosperity. Ms. Mena challenged Africa to redefine its greatest asset, not minerals, but people, declaring that human resource is our greatest resource. Dr. Ngege called for the political courage to lead with confidence rather than imitation, urging Africa to pioneer its own models. Mr. Chari emphasized the urgency of modernizing outdated mining laws, rooting out corruption, and ensuring that communities directly benefit from extraction. Their collective vision was clear. Africa's future wealth lies not beneath its soil, but in the empowerment, innovation, and integrity of its people. The resolution on the natural resource and economic transformation build human capital as a foundation of resource governance, establish Africa's resource leadership academics, and train local talent in resource management, ethical leadership, and contract negotiation. Modernize and harmonize natural resource laws, replace colonial-era frameworks with transparent, people-centered legislation, publish all mining contracts, and create regional legal compact under the AU to curb exploitative competition. Operationalize the AFCTA for resource-based industrialization, develop cross-border processing corridors for diamond polishing, lithium refining, and cocoa processing, and fast-track visa-free mobility for professionals in the extractive sector. 3, leadership and culture, empowering every voice. Transformation begins with leadership and serves generation, not election cycles. The Transformational Female Leadership Panel reaffirmed that inclusion is not symbolic. It is strategic. When women lead, societies become more equitable, innovative, and prosperous. As Her Royal Majesty Princess Lamini stated, it is time to normalize women's presence in leadership, not as an exception, but as a rule. Resolutions on leadership and culture. Normalize women's leadership. Implement and enforce 50-50 representation across politics, boards, and traditional leadership spaces. Launch a continental mentorship bridge. Pair established leaders with emerging innovators to build cross-generational and cross-border collaboration. Teach integrity early. Integrate anti-corruption and ethics education into national school curricula from the primary level upwards. Owning the African narrative is number 4. The day closed with a unifying call to reclaim and amplify Africa's story from a continent of potential to a continent of proof. Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former president from Mauritius, and Mr. Wu Wei-nong reminded delegates that storytelling is not a soft power. It is a strategic force that shapes identity, confidence, and destiny. Dr. Ngege echoed this sentiment, urging African artists and filmmakers to use creative industry as platforms to rebrand Africa's image and launch the continent's luxury brands. Resolution on narratives. Amplify African proof. And we have plenty of that. Governments, media houses, and corporations will commit to documenting and consistently disseminating Africa's success stories quarterly to shift global perception from aid to achievement. Now the charge for day 2. Yesterday, we defined what and why. Today, we define how. Our day 2 dialogue in leadership, trade, and investment and culture must feed directly into the Gaborone communique, not as a ceremonial declaration, but as a binding pact for action and accountability. Let us move forward with urgency, unity, and shared vision. Let history remember this convening, not for the speeches we gave, but for the systems we built. As Her Majesty charged us, when the world reads Africa's next chapter, let it be said that we dared to trust, dared to believe, and dared to build together. The next chapter is not only bright, it is brilliantly intentional. Let's go and write it. This is the call and charge to all of us. Thank you very much.
Not all African countries have a bad governance reputation. Across the continent, there are nations quietly building models that the world can learn from, systems anchored on accountability, transparency, and innovation. Take Mauritius, for instance, consistently ranked Africa's best governed nation by the Chandler Good Government Index. Its strength lies in strong democratic institutions, a reliable judiciary, and policies that support economic diversification beyond tourism. With steady investments in education and technology, Mauritius shows how small island states can thrive through governance that puts people first. In Rwanda, efficiency and accountability define governance. Since the early 2000s, the country has built one of Africa's most disciplined civil services. From community-driven development programs like Umuganda to its zero-tolerance stance on corruption, Rwanda's focus on results has become a model for effective statecraft in emerging economies. Botswana stands as one of Africa's longest-running democracies. Since independence in 1966, the country has maintained political stability, prudent economic management, and one of the lowest corruption rates on the continent. Its diamond wealth is transparently managed through strong public-private partnerships, proving that natural resources can fuel national development when handled with integrity. In Ghana, democracy is deeply rooted. Peaceful transitions of power, an active civil society, and vibrant media continue to strengthen its democratic culture. Institutions like the Electoral Commission and the Right to Information Act ensure that governance remains transparent and accountable to citizens. Further south, Namibia is often cited for its rule of law and independent judiciary. The government has worked to strengthen public accountability mechanisms and digitalize judicial processes. Its governance approach, inclusive and transparent, demonstrates how institutional integrity can anchor national stability. Together, these countries reflect Africa, become garments to preserve African heritage. Designers like Hetumba, Kilanta, Hanifa, Lisa Folawio, Imado Duso, Studio 189, and Lucanio Mdingi are redefining what it means to wear African culture. Through their use of indigenous fabrics and craftsmanship, they tell stories of heritage, identity, and pride, preserving age-old traditions while capturing the attention of a global audience. In Ghana, brands like Studio 189 manufactured the entire collection locally, leveraging traditional techniques such as hand batikking, bogolanfi, and indigo dyeing. They work directly with artisan communities who have practiced these crafts for generations, such as Kente weavers in Bonwire and batik artisan in Cape Coast, and bringing those fabrics into contemporary silhouettes. In Nigeria, designers such as Hutumba and Kilanta rely extensively on indigenous fabrics such as Akwete, Adire, and Ashoke. And in South Africa, Lucanio Mdingi's collection honor Xhosa weaving traditions, merging heritage with contemporary minimalism. Africa's fashion renaissance is powered by designers who see every stitch as a story and every fabric as a vessel of history. These bustling African designers are not just creating garments, they're preserving heritage and craft through style. Today, their work transcends borders, using fashion as a tool to preserve African identity and heritage beyond the continent, weaving culture into the global conversation.
Right. Thank you so much for your audience. Can we try and do a little fit check, health check, presence check? A little round of applause if you are from Africa. A round of applause if you are from the rest of the world. I think it's a very important indicator how important being here is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us through this conference. Just before we do proceed with our program, kindly allow me to make a bit of an announcement. There is a vehicle that is obstructing the emergency lane at the front of the building. The vehicle blocking the emergency exit, its plate number is B641BRN. B641BRN. Kindly go and move your vehicle so that we are safe and secure. Thank you so much. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I'm going to announce our first speaker and invite them to our podium. The speaker for today, or our first speaker for today, is Her Worship, the Deputy Mayor of the city of Gaborone, the Diamond City, if you may. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Me Manki Sekete.
Dumelang bagaetsho. Good morning. Machi. Today I'm Ghanaian. I would like to greet your majesties in absentia, to say your presence is felt, though you are not here in the physical. And good morning to all ladies and gentlemen here present, the ambassadors, my minister, Honorable Musawa, he was here yesterday. I have seen the permanent secretary and her deputy. I welcome you, my leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May God bless us all. It is a profound honor today to extend my message of goodwill and welcome you into Gaborone City, our Diamond City. Your vision, your majesty, and your leadership has embodied us through the movement to speak to us what we have.
Her Worship.
Thank you. May we all thank you for standing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for standing and acknowledging and receiving their majesties as they did join us. Her Worship, thank you so much for indulging us. Thank you so much. All right.
You may continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the God Almighty for He has opened doors for my parents to come and hear me speaking to you. Thank you very much. That caused me to revert to where I started. Ladies and gentlemen, let me greet the Majesties, the Queen and the King, together with their entourage. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome and greet you in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Like I was saying, it is a profound honor to extend this message of goodwill and welcoming you into Gaborone. I'm here on behalf of the mayor himself and the city of Gaborone. Your vision, your majesties, your leadership has embodied through this movement to speak to us about what we have for the heart of Africa and what Africa needs today. Africa needs unity, innovation, and purpose. The theme that we have chosen for today, Africa, the next chapter, I said Botswana has already written her chapter yesterday. The page is there in the next chapter. We are continuing with the next page. We are reminded that Africa, or the story of Africa's process, is not a different dream, not a so distant a dream, but a living reality that we must write together as Africans. Through Elevate Africa, the power of working together, collaboration, where culture meets creativity, as we have seen yesterday, where leadership inspires the transformation and where hope becomes an action. As the Deputy Mayor of the city of Gaborone, I proudly affirm our city's commitment and partnership to the ideals that Elevate Africa stand for in empowerment, inclusivity, sustainable growth. Your Majesties, we celebrate your vision as Botswana and your unwavering belief in the continent and its potential. May Elevate Africa continue to spread wings and continue to rise, shaping leaders, upcoming leaders and present leaders, building a future that reflects the true greatness of our continent, Africa. The time is now for Africa to stand alone, to stand and be an envy of other continents of the world. It's time for other continents to look into Africa for everything that can a human mind think of. It's time for Africa to rise, and it's time for the African countries to be in unity and support the vision of elevating Africa, taking Africa to the highest heights. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you into today's session and say, let us take part, let us listen attentively, and let us, from here, take the message across our countries. May God bless you all. Thank you very much.
A new tech revolution is blowing across Africa, and its young citizens are really taking advantage.
Globally, startups account for a substantial portion of job creation, innovation, and economic growth. In Africa, the story is increasingly compelling. The continent's startup ecosystem is significantly to GDP, investments, and digital economy transformation. We began to see this rise in earnest in the mid-2010s, when mobile phone penetration, digital payment infrastructure, and global investor interest aligned across the continent. From that moment, point, African-founded startups began emerging at the forefront of global innovation. Today, companies such as Piggyvest, Wave, Andela, Flutterwave, Jahazi, and Ope exemplify the skill, ambition, and impact now possible from African tech. Ope, founded in 2018 in Nigeria, captured headlines in August 2020 when it raised $400 million, carrying a valuation of approximately $2 billion. By 2025, filings suggest its valuation climbed to around $2.75 billion. Its monthly transaction volumes exceed $3 billion, and it processes a large share of mobile money transfers in Nigeria and beyond. Wave, based in Senegal and launched in 2018, became Francophone Africa's first unicorn in 2021, when a $200 million Series A pushed its valuation to $1.7 billion. By 2023, it claimed around 6 million users in Senegal alone, roughly 75% of the adult population and over 10 million users across the multiple West African countries. Andela, founded in 2014, pioneered the model of training African software engineers and connecting them to global companies. That global talent pipeline model helped it reach unicorn status with valuations around $1.5 to $2 billion. Flutterwave, formed in 2016, became one of Africa's largest startups when it raised $250 million Series D in early 2022 at a valuation of over $3 billion. It now serves merchants and businesses across 30 plus African countries and connects to global flows. Piggyvest, launched in 2016 in Nigeria, has grown into a leading savings and investment fintech, serving millions of users and deploying hundreds of billions of naira in dispersed savings and investment products. In the years ahead, a digital infrastructure.
Right. Technical difficulties, very normal for a show like this. Hello, everyone, again. I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the presence of His Royal Majesty Ogiame Oluwache III and Her Royal Majesty Olori Oluwache III, the Reverend King and Queen Consort of the Wari Kingdom. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you so much for your presence. You know, and I just want to say, what a beautiful display of culture and history. You know, I'm from Ghana, but I grew up in the States, and my closest encounter to seeing real life kings and queens was on TV, right? Coming to America, being one of my earliest shows or movies where I really got introduced to, the African monarchies, or so to speak. And it's really incredible to witness this in person. And I just want to really thank you, Your Majesties, for your vision and for your commitment to showcasing African excellence and to helping us build the Africa that we all want to live in through this incredible platform, Elevate Africa. Once more, can we give it up for our Royal Majesties? Okay, before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to quickly remind you all, we still have that vehicle that's blocking the entrance. So please, if your vehicle is B641BR9, we would so appreciate it if you can go and move your vehicle out of the way. Please, again, it's B641BR9. Thank you so much. All right. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is from a country that I have been covering quite a lot and is truly redefining what it means for women to lead on the global stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming to the stage Honorable Kadia Diana Humtumwa, who is the governor of Ohangwena region in Namibia. With a big round of applause, please help me welcome her to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuwashe, the third CFR, and Her Royal Majesty Olori Atuwashe, the third, Your Excellencies in the room, distinguished guests, esteemed leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Namibia, the country I come from, is called the land of the brave and the land of contrasts, a young democracy on a beautiful African continent that is rich in cultural diversity and open to collaboration because we believe in the Pan-African agenda. I send you greetings from the land of the brave. Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, I am pleased to join you at this convening, which I would like to refer as the gathering of minds and of conviction, and I believe we've seen this all yesterday. Elevate Africa is a unique platform through which we are able to translate ideas into action and with the courage to reimagine governance, convergence with the creativity to reform it. Today, we have an opportunity to remind ourselves that the future of governance in Africa will not simply be shaped in the corridors of power as we know it, but it will be shaped through the incubators of new thinking, in policy labs and among citizens who firmly believe in good governance that must transcend theory and become practical in what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, by 2025, Africa is expected to be home to nearly 2.5 billion people, and over 60% of this population will be below the age of 25. This is more than just a demographic fact. It is a revolution that is waiting to happen. I term it as a revolution waiting to happen because I am cognizant of the potential that exists within African youth, just waiting to be harnessed. Yet, the same potential exists alongside deep structural inequalities. Across the continent, approximately 1 in 3 young Africans is neither employed, studying, nor training. Behind that number, ladies and gentlemen, lies a story, one of frustration, yes, but of resilience, and of young people determined to build even when the odds are unkind. Your Majesties, distinguished guests, we cannot celebrate the promise of youth without confronting the barriers that suffocate it. It would be disingenuous to speak of opportunity while our systems remain locked in outdated models and resist change. If Africa is to claim the century that is before her, we must begin by redesigning how we relate to each other, how we love each other, how we care for each other, how we break the stereotypes that hold us back from doing business with each other, and undo the boundaries that the Berlin Conference of 1884 achieved to bring through the partitioning of Africa. We should not maintain what is, but prepare for what must become. Leadership, at its essence, is the art of turning intent into impact. But too often, ladies and gentlemen, our institutions have struggled to keep pace with the demands of the changing world, a world where technology outpaces policy and where citizens expect transparency, agility, and measurable results. The idea of policy labs offer an answer that is both practical and profound. It invites us to view governance as a living experiment, a place where evidence matters, where innovation is welcome, where failure is not feared if it leads to learning. Director of Ceremonies, in order to catalyze reform, governments must build ecosystems that bring together policymakers, researchers, entrepreneurs, and youth leaders, not in consultation after decisions are made, but in collaboration before those decisions are actually taken. That is what adaptive governance looks like: open, iterative, and brave enough to test ideas before scaling them. Africa's growth will not be driven by speeches, but by sectors that shape the livelihoods and restore dignity. I would like to focus a bit on agriculture because it's one of the areas that we are all good at. So in agriculture, which still employs over half of our labor force as a continent, we must move from subsistence to sophistication. With 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, Africa has no reason to import or to complain about hunger. If we integrate technology, improve storage, and market systems while attracting youth through agripreneurship, we will feed both our people and our economies. Food security is of utmost importance, as a hungry nation cannot be productive. And I must say that a hungry nation will continue to be a beggar. In entrepreneurship, we must dismantle the invisible walls that keep young innovators at the margins of opportunity. A young entrepreneur in Africa should not need political connections to access financing or spend months navigating bureaucracy to register a small business. What they need is access. They need trust, and they need a fair chance to compete. We like saying we benchmark. I think it is time as Africans that we stop benchmarking from other people and start creating and innovating, fall down, make those mistakes, stand up, and then hold our hands, and then go together and create the prototypes that we actually need within Africa. In Namibia, for example, the government has adopted what is called the National Youth Development Fund, which is a tool of entrepreneurial empowerment, offering young people loans at 2% interest and no collateral requirements. This fund was recently established by Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, of which the government of the Republic has capitalized it with an amount of over 300 million Namibian dollars. And I must say that we have gone through the first phase, the pilot phase of actually empowering young people through the fund. And what the government did is, as long as you have a business plan that speaks to what you want to do, whether it's 100,000 Namibian dollars that you need or $1 million Namibian dollars that you need, you will get funding from the government for this project. And I must say, it's one of those tools that the government is looking at in empowering the young people. In technology and innovation, we must go beyond consumption to creation. Africa produces less than 1% of global patents, yet the ingenuity of our people is limitless. With investment in digital infrastructure, data systems, and research institutions, we can shift from importing solutions to exporting them. Solutions that speak to our realities, healthcare, climate resilience, and governance itself. Your Majesty's distinguished guests, reform is not a technical exercise. It is a moral undertaking. It demands honesty where our systems have failed and humility to redesign them for a generation that will not accept business as usual. We cannot build the 21st century leadership and governance with 20th century tools. We must move beyond the rhetoric to responsibility, ensuring that reform translates into tangible outcomes that people can feel, such as better schools, cleaner governance, faster services, and safer societies. Good governance, ladies and gentlemen, must cease to be a performance of politics and become the practice of care. Leadership in this next era must be less about command and more about coherence, the ability to unite vision with evidence and power with principle. We must foster a leadership culture that listens before it legislates, that measures success but not applause, but by progress that finds strength not in distance from the people, but in proximity to their realities. So whether you're in Togo or in South Africa, the reality and not the distance is what should matter. To the young leaders of today are not asking to merely inherit institutions. We are asking to reimagine them. It is therefore our duty as those entrusted with authority to create the space, the policy, and the trust for us to be able to do so. To the delegates that are gathered here, policy makers, innovators, civil servants, scholars, and the youth, this convening is our shared workshop and our shared seminar. Let us treat it as a laboratory of possibility. Let it be remembered not for the elegance of its speeches, but for the courage of its outcomes. Let us remember that Africa does not lack ideas, it lacks the architecture to implement them at scale. The public and private sectors must stop meeting at the point of crisis and start meeting at the point of creation. Academia must step out of the archives and into the design rooms of policy. Civil society must move from the critique to co-creation. When we synchronize these forces, governance itself becomes innovation in motion. Africa is standing, ladies and gentlemen, at the intersection of possibility and preparation. The question is not whether we will rise, but whether we will rise together with clarity, with courage, and improved coordination. This convening should therefore set the tone for an Africa that no longer apologizes for her ambition, an Africa that governs with integrity. May our conversations here be frank as they were since yesterday, our ideas positively disruptive, and our outcomes very measurable. For in the end, governance reform is not about changing systems, it is about changing lives. The world is watching, but more importantly, the youth are watching. To His Majesty and Her Majesty, your vision of We Elevate Africa is an inspiration to the entire globe. Africans on the continent and in the diaspora rally behind the great noble cause you have established. Thank you for birthing a vision so great that it will transcend generations and centuries to come. I would like to leave you with two quotes from leaders that I look up to. And the first one is from His Excellency, Sir Seretse Khama, who once opined and said, "A people without a past is a people without a soul." The second one is from Marcus Garvey, and he eloquently opined and said, "We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. The man who is not able to develop and use his mind is bound to be the slave of the other who uses his mind." I wish you all fruitful deliberations. I thank you.
I would like to say to everyone, welcome as we move towards elevating Africa together.
The truth is, nations need nations to thrive. Africa, though separated by borders, is deeply interconnected. I am an African queen, domiciled in Africa. The very core of me is Africa.
I always say Africa and drums. They go hand in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from the governor. You heard her message. Africa needs to make it work for itself. Let's give her a round of applause and the people of the beautiful desert country of Namibia. Thank you so much. As you would see, my stage is being reconstructed. And in this reconstruction, we are going to have a panel discussion. Now, this is a panel discussion that's going to discuss creative capital. How is it that we can leverage Africa's creativity? I spoke about the drum. How can we sell the drum to the world? That is something that we're going to be discussing. But before I do proceed, as my good gentlemen here prepare for our panel, kindly allow me to acknowledge the great people at TOF. They are the sponsors of our panel. TOF is more than a philanthropical organization. It's a movement shaping how creativity, culture, opportunity across the African continent. It is founded by the great Osahan Okumbu, who has built a simple but radical idea that when you create the right environment, people rise to meet their potential. At its core, TOF exists to bridge potential and purpose through its four creative pillars: art, film, entertainment, and fashion. The foundation empowers talent, funds projects, and builds platforms that turn possibility into progress. Whether it's supporting emerging artists at +234 Art Fair, funding writer labs through the TOF X Write Good Stories workshops or workrooms, or creating spaces for collaboration and mentorship. TOF works in shifting the creative landscape from inspiration to infrastructure. They are rooted in excellence, driven by faith and guided by purpose. TOF believes that creativity is not a luxury, it's a national resource. Every initiative from art patronage to film development is designed to nurture capacity, create access, and ensure that African stories, talents, and ideas are not just celebrated, but sustained. Let's give a big round of applause to the great people at TOF. Thank you so much for sponsoring this conference and this panel. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and no further ado, kindly allow me to invite my panel moderator and host. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the editor-in-chief at She Afrique, Natasha Dlamini. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us. Natasha will be joined by a strong panel of Pan-Africanists from all over the world. With no particular order, kindly allow me to invite Busi Matisco, President of the New York African Chamber of Commerce. He'll be joined by Kyle Griffin, Director of Guild of America. They will be joined by Nicole Asinugu, Director Partnership and Sponsorship at TOF. Further joined by actor Butch Franklin. Butch, please do join us. They're joined from Global Venture Partners, GVP Investment Group, Jason Cook. Also joined by actor and producer Hakeem Kai Kazim, who will be joining this panel. And last but not least, Moki Makura, Executive Director at Africa No Filter.
Brother Ali,
over to you, my lady.
Of course. Stop! What is it? Brother Ali, take my back. Take my back, I'll protect you, don't worry. I'm not a grace. I'm not a fear. I'm not know me. What are we going to do? Take my protect you. Me no say you for church. But you know your boys. Anytime I drink, just
Good morning. Let's start by structuring this conversation. Africa has been defined by its rich cultural heritage, dynamic storytelling, and creativity. From the pulsing sounds of Afrobeats and Amapiano to the striking visuals of Nollywood, we, as the African creatives, have captured global attention. Listen, not only has the creative industry done this, but it has also contributed immensely to the global GDP. Yet, this sector remains underfunded, under-recognized, and fragmented. Today, we will go beyond the conversation and turn the next page. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce and welcome my panel. Let's give them a round of applause. Moki, I'm going to start with you. You're the founder of Africa No Filter. I want to understand how it has shaped the Continental's creative output.
Great. Well, thank you, Natasha. I don't think this is on. Can anyone hear me?
No.
Is that one on? Hello. Great. Great. Okay, well, thank you, Natasha, for that question, and thank you to Her Majesties for having us here. Africa No Filter is a narrative change organization. That's the organization I lead. And we're trying to change the way the world sees Africa, but more importantly, how we see ourselves. And in order to change narratives, we need to work with storytellers. So we work with the creative industries. We're primarily an advocacy organization, so we campaign for better representation for Africa. And we do that through evidence. One of the things we published was a report that showed that the stereotypical images and stories told about the continent across global media cost us as a continent $4.2 billion every year. That money could educate 12 million children. So it has an impact. The other thing we do is that we have a community of creatives. And once they're in our community, we give grants, we support them, help them be better business people as creatives. And to date, Africa No Filter has put $7.5 million into the creative economy in Africa. And that's a figure I'm very proud of because creativity in Africa is not well rewarded. So I think that if we are serious about changing the way the world sees us, we need to invest in the sector that creates the stories that influence and inspire the world to see us differently. That's what we do.
Thank you, Moki, for that. It is very important for us to know that when we control the narrative, somehow we can control the perception. Speaking of re-scripting our stories, Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
So, Nicole, you are a screenwriter and a filmmaker. And we understand that narratives are shaped mostly in the writing rooms. My question is, how can film and storytelling reshape Africa's global narrative?
Thank you for the question. Good morning, everyone. I think that storytelling is the foundation of how we see ourselves. It's how nations have used as national branding and perception. I'll give the US as an example. A lot of people know about, without even going to the US, you know about the CIA and the FBI and all these institutions. And that's because of American films. Yeah. And I think that the beginning of perception starts with stories. So just like Moki had said, a lot of the negative perceptions are perpetrated by films. And so what's really important is for us to look at the kind of stories that we're telling, look at the kind of characters that we're developing. I think a lot of times, especially I can speak for Nollywood, we've advanced when it comes to cameras, we've advanced when it comes to the quality of the content, but when it comes to the messaging, when it comes to the thematic objectives, I think sometimes we lack that, so it's really, really important. And I also think it's about agency. And so with the Osaho Okomba Foundation, one of the things that we wanted to do is to empower creatives. But what does that mean to empower someone? And so if you look at the root definition of empowerment, it means to give authority. And so if young people don't realize that they actually have that authority within themselves, that the stories that they're telling could actually change the perception of an entire nation, they won't come to the table with that sense of self. So we need to start with that. We need to let them know that it's not just an idea, it's not just a story. It can literally change the way we look at an entire country, and that's very, very powerful.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. After we have told our stories, we need actors to tell the stories. So my next panelist is Hakim. Hakim, my question to you is, you are an actor and a producer, and you have had the opportunity to work in the continent and in Hollywood as well. How have you managed to scale your talent to a career?
Thank you. Testing 1, 2. Thank you, Your Majesties. Thank you very much for having me. I started off as an actor in the United Kingdom, and then I went on to South Africa and did movies like Hotel Rwanda, Pirates of the Caribbean, Wolverine, things like that. And I then went on to do production, doing films like Man on Ground, doing films like the one I've just done, It's the Blackness. Now, the transformation for me was about being able to tell our story. It's very important for us to be able to tell our story from our perspective. Now, going to Nollywood, what I saw at the beginning of Nollywood was that this came from a street level, that Nollywood was self-grown, self-evolved. It came from roots, it came from a truth, a deep truth. And on that truth, the world embraced that truth. The same thing with Afrobeats. Afrobeats came from the street. It didn't come from America, it came from Africa. And it came with a truth that resonated on a world and a global level. So my point here is that we must tell our stories from our own perspective. What I'm finding now, what I'm seeing now is that the Nollywoods are beginning to do stories that don't really have our truth. They're beginning to echo an American sort of gangsters on the streets, armed robbers in the middle of Lagos, and which are all of, that has its value, but the world embraced us because we were telling our stories from our own perspective. So my transformation into becoming a director was to help tell the African narrative from an African perspective. For me, we will only progress when we begin to embrace ourselves in our wholeness, that we tell our stories in our way, that we tell our music in our way. It's so important. And then we have a scope for the world to embrace us. I mean, now you've got, in Brazil, for example, there's a young girl who's been watching Nollywood movies and has embraced the whole idea of Nollywood. There's a guy in Paris who's a fashion designer who's seen I don't know, South African sci-fi and is embraced in his fashion, South African sci-fi. That is our cultural power, which we must embrace. And being here is not about talking about what we must do, but it's about finding real solid solutions. How do we practically make this shift? This is what we must all go home with. How do we practically make this shift? Yes, we need government investment. That's it. Yes, we need boots on the ground. Yes, we need to educate our future filmmakers. But how do we practically put that into consideration?
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you. As we are still talking about the Nollywood film industry, I'll go to Buchi. My question to you is, you are a seasoned actor in Nollywood. How can we improve our infrastructure for the African creatives economy to reach its potential?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Your Majesty. Demalan, Botswana. Thank you very much. First off, before I answer your question, I'm going to come back to you. I want to piggyback off what my brother said about storytelling in Nollywood, because that's how I pay my tithe. I mean, yes, we do have storytellers that are not telling the right story, you know, not being authentic, not being original about the films that they're putting out. But I come from a sect of filmmakers that are doing justice to Nigerian stories, to African stories. Please, you can clap for us. Yeah. Thank you very much. The likes of Kemi Adetiba Hemenaka, the likes of Kunle Afolayan, you know, the list is endless. And these filmmakers are sticking true to the story. How are we going to get money? Let's use the right words. When you say investments, it's all over the place. We need money to tell our stories right. We have great filmmakers. We have amazing actors. Nice to meet you. We have amazing screenwriters, directors. What I would say is this, right? Before you put your money into anything, you need proof, right? there's Netflix, there's Amazon. Watch To Kill a Monkey. Watch Rattlesnake. Nicola Senegal wrote Rattlesnake. It was directed by Ramsey Noah. There are a lot of beautiful, interesting, intriguing Nigerian films out there on different platforms that will give you that push, that nudge that you need as an investor to put money down so that we can tell our stories the way we want to tell it, so that we don't have our brothers and sisters across the ocean telling our stories when we can do justice to our own stories. Thank you very much.
Jason, I'm coming to you. Which he spoke about financing, and we know that in order for our stories to be heard, we need the money. He said we should not use the word investment. Let's be straightforward, we need the money. My question is, what is Global Venture Partners, and how has it supported the creative industry in Africa?
Thank you to Your Excellencies for having us, Your Majesty, Excellencies, and esteemed guests. It's a great question. Global Venture Partners stands at the intersection of culture and that capital. And I will mirror the sentiment of my two brothers here and what they've said in terms of being able to control the narrative and tell your own story and why it's so deeply important, which is why we started with media. Across our media portfolio, we have Rolling Stone Media, cultural leader in terms of Middle East and North Africa. We also have Rappaport Africa, and that highlights African lifestyle and luxury and exports it, amplifies it to the world. More importantly, we have Time Africa, which is deeply crucial in terms of telling a story from a leadership, from people, in an innovative standpoint, and Billboard Africa. Now, from a commercial and investment standpoint, Billboard invested over $6.5 million with Botswana, the CEO of BITC, Kells, and that was orchestrated by Ms. Pat Danby. And we did that across Billboard Global Power Players. We were able to provide Thames with a Diamond Award. More importantly, we had Amantle Brown, which is a notable Botswanan artist. She performed on one of the biggest international stages for a Botswanan artist ever. Now, I say that to say this. Controlling the narrative and being able to tell that story then filters into investment, because just a few short weeks later, Qatar announced a proposed $12 billion investment into Botswana. Yeah, you can clap for that too. It's fantastic. So I'm not going to say that that was solely based on GDP, but I will say amplification and media value is important to drive foreign direct investment, and equally important as diasporic direct investment. And we look to create a circular economy that filters into each other. With that being said, media then filters into financial services. We'll have the first digital bank in Rwandan history, which we look to launch by 2026. And that lends itself into infrastructure, where we propose a $200 million investment into Habadone to build an indoor stadium, as we're looking to invest, and we're partnering and in talks with NBA and NBA Africa to purchase one of the first permanent NBA teams in Africa.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'd like to ask him a question, because I'm excited that we're doing a lot for my brothers and sisters in Botswana.
Right.
Have you been to Nigeria?
He put me on the spot. Nigeria is a foundation which we look to partner and collaborate with the likes of yourself and others who are really leading that conversation in terms of culture, in terms of capital, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of business and working together. So Nigeria is absolutely a top priority for Global Venture Partners for 2026.
A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you, Jason. Kayla, intellectual property is an intangible asset. And since it's an asset, we need to protect it. My question is, what have you seen work in Hollywood that we can implement in terms of protecting intellectual property in Africa.
Good morning, and thank you to your majesties for having us here. My name is Kyler Griffin, and I work as a second assistant director in the Directors Guild of America. And as far as protecting intellectual property, especially in Hollywood, I would say the most important thing that we have are our guilds and our unions that protect the workers, the artists, everyone behind the scenes. In 2023, I don't know if you know, but there was a strike in Hollywood because the producers and the actors and the writers couldn't come to an agreement. And one of the most important things that they were trying to protect was AI, and AI coming in and taking the place of actors and writers. And they stuck to their guns and they struck, and they came to an agreement that next year is now another negotiation year, so I'm sure another round will be coming. But I think the most important thing that we have in Hollywood is our voices. And when we gather around and we make a stand and we tell the producers that they can't just take what we have created as human beings and give it to AI or let a program create what we do, I think that is the most important strength that we have, coming together, collective bargaining, and making sure that even though we are in different organizations and different sects of the Hollywood sphere, that we stand our ground and we come together. In Hollywood, there's a lot of organizations that protect rights and royalties and making sure that people get paid. But having those protections and making sure that they're reinforced here in Africa, and especially getting stronger unions and guilds and protections for your people, is the most important thing that you can do in order to make sure that your intellectual property isn't taken, especially with AI entering the conversation.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you. Busi, what is the importance of collaboration in the creative industry in Africa?
Thank you, Your Majesties, Excellencies, esteemed guests. Natasha, thank you so much. And to echo what my fellow panelists have said, it's important for us to show up, first of all, as individuals, and however small we can contribute.
Busi, just a minute.
Thank you so much. We will be continuing with this amazing panel. At this stage, Their Majesties will be departing the hall for an engagement. So we will just pause for that, and then we will continue with the panel. Thank you for engaging us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for indulging us. Natasha, back to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry, Busi, about that. You can continue.
No, it's okay. Thank you. We had to honor protocol. My name is Busi Matsiko Anden. My name is Busi Matsiko. I'm the founder and president of the New York Africa Chamber of Commerce. And I'm a board trustee of Berkeley College, which is very big on the creatives. I've been a proponent of Africa to the world. One of the things I did in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, was having for indie designers, which morphed into this day's Africa Fashion Week in New York. I've also pushed initiatives with Berkeley College, which is over 95 years old, whereby we created a designer in residence program, and we have had 2 African designers to date. And last year during Fashion Week, it was the first time you had 7 African designers on the official calendar of New York Fashion Week. That said, that's just an example of some of the initiatives where collaboration is important. Afro-Exim Bank sent a delegation to Berkeley College to support the designers, and they invested in the designers. These are the stories we don't share and that's why it's important for us to use platforms to collaborate. I was fortunate that last year I was here with Forbes, and I met the GVP team as well. And later on, I'm also now doing an event alongside the G20 with Time Africa, because we need to shape our narrative from our perspective, not just a blanket perception of what our story should be like. So, and that's, for us, our intention of that is to showcase what happens beyond the G20. Some people, while you might say, why the G20? It's important that we show up in different rooms. Our voices should be heard. And it's important for us to be intentional and deliberate in our collaborations, not just self-serving relationships. And we should bring the youth into these conversations. We need to have those voices. We need to have the intergenerational dialogue. When we see countries like Israel, India, China growing, it's because they have tapped into their diaspora. It's important that the diaspora works with the people on the continents. We are a part of the same team. We need to work together. If we want to go far, we go together. If we want to go fast, go alone. So we have to also be accountable while we're doing all these collaborations and give each other feedback, honest feedback. If we just think that it's just a matter of sitting on panels and not being seen, we have failed. What are we using these platforms for? We should use these platforms to go beyond and implement and bring others along. And I'm just saying this is just for us to make sure we build together. We have to be sustainable. And that's, for me, as a chamber right now, I've thought about all the work I've done over the years, especially seeing what has happened with USAID and Prosper Africa. We have to think of alternative sources of funding. We have to be creative and think of how we create funding sources for us. We can't wait for government. There has to be a collaboration, whether it's with the public sector and the private sector, and we shouldn't just keep pointing fingers. So anyway, that said, with the chamber, I'm focused on making sure the members of institutions and funders, because we need institutions for us to progress, because institutions outlive us. And then individuals can also be part of the digital part of things for us to work together. And that's why we like platforms like Elevate Africa, also the mainstream platforms like maybe Time Africa, but we have to be able to tell our stories. Until a lion begins to tell its stories, you'll glorify the story of the hunter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Busi. Thank you. Thank you. I'm enjoying this conversation, and I wish that it can go on, but for the sake of time, so we are going to close this session, but I'm going to give you each 30 seconds. I'll start with you, Moki.
30 seconds to do what? Actually, I just want to address something that Butsi said, and actually everyone's referred to funding. Funding is absolutely critical, and making entertainment or the creative sector viable as a business is important. But if you think about countries like America, a lot of Europe, the way the creative economy was formed there was actually not business. It came from philanthropy. If you look at a lot of artists and films that were funded, not because they made money, but because the message was important. Which is why I think that we, as people in the creative economy, we also have to look to philanthropic funding. I always give the example of, this series, Will and Grace. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Will and Grace did more for the LGBTQI community in America, led to same-sex marriage legislation in America because of an entertainment series. And that's what I'm saying, that television, content, films can do more, much more than just entertain. And when they do that, funding sources open up. So that's the point I want to leave us with. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to double down on what Moki has just said. Funding is very important. Philanthropy funding is very important. But these will allow us to tell our stories, and these stories will resonate across the globe. Our young must be involved to be able to tell these stories. Education must happen so that the next generation of filmmakers, from carpenters, from technicians, from scriptwriters, all are in a place to take the industry one step beyond. But that can only happen through education. That can only happen through some form of either government intervention or philanthropic funding. So we must all get on board with that sort of idea. The next generation is going to be very important. They're going to be our storytellers. They're going to define and rewrite our history for us in the way that we want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please stick to 30 seconds?
Sure. In terms of the next generation, I agree with that sentiment as well. I believe that those of us who are walking through doors or kicking them down, it's important for the next generation for us to pull them through and lead them through those same doors. For more of a commercial aspect, that the next billion and trillion-dollar companies will be in Africa, so it's important to take those along with us, more importantly the youth.
Thank you.
Thank you. I pray for a borderless, creative continent. I don't want creativity to wait for visas before content is being disseminated around Africa. It's time for us to collaborate. Botswana is a beautiful place. I want to come back here and shoot a film. Yes. I want to learn the language. Gialarata, Botswana. So I also want you to come home to Nigeria. Let's collaborate. These air-conditioned conversations are nice, but we need to visit different parts of this beautiful continent and tell our own story. God bless you.
I think the fact that the Osaho Kumba Foundation sponsored this panel is actually philanthropy in action. And I think that the more that we partner with other countries and other funds, I think that's how we sit together and that's how we collaborate and that's how we move the needle forward. I think messaging is important. Messaging is everything. And so if we can come together, Africa No Filter, the Osaho Kumba Foundation, your fund, there's so much that we can do. So I think it's incredible that we can say that today we're actually doing that.
Thank you. We have 21 seconds left. Kayla?
I would just say for Africa to strike while the iron is hot, because Africa is very hot right now. We see Afrobeats has taken over the world, so if it can happen in music, it can happen in film, it can happen in television, and just to continue to tell those stories, the narrative is already there, so we already see the changing face of Africa, and I know Black Americans love getting here, going to Dirty December in Nigeria and Ghana, so to continue that and continue the messaging abroad, I think the time is now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Funding is important. That's how philanthropy happens as well, when there's funding. And it's important to build and strengthen our ecosystems. we have to be intentional about growing together and investing in ourselves and investing in others. Africa, we are the ones we have been waiting for. Pula.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have came to the end of the session. I just want to say thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you.
Such an amazing
Thank you.
panel. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a huge round of applause. Could you kindly? I'd like to invite you for a picture. Let's capture this historic moment in conversations about Africa's cultural capital and human capital. How do we leverage that? How do we bring that together and make sure to the value of the continent?
Absolutely. And when I think about the many times that I'm strolling in malls in the US, in New York, and I hear Afro beats and how proud that makes me as an African. But I think as the panel clearly articulated, the next step is for us to monetize, to figure out disruptive and innovative models of monetizing our influence. So thank you so much to this incredible panel, really great takeaways.
Let's give
Another
them a
round of applause.
huge round of applause.
Great job, great job.
They did an exceptional job. And one thing that they did say is honesty is key. How we make this work becomes very important. And being honest about how we're going to make it work becomes critical.
Absolutely. So we're going to break for a quick coffee or tea break.
Quick.
Very
Underline quick. Okay? Operative word, quick.
And what we would love for you all to do is actually grab your coffee or tea and come right back in here for our next panel, which is on sustainable infrastructure for economic transformation. And you already know that's going to be another great conversation. So just step out there, grab your coffee, tea, and come on right back.
Let's try and do it in 15 minutes so that as you grab your coffee, you can return into the hall so that we can move on with our program. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience.
Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Fasetuna e kholo e lo re ngwana le gape thara re dira re kopana le batho bore bana marapo kgosa kapa jone bokgoni ja go kgona re tsholetsa kapa gone go re diga Company la jangwe sa butsa la mpitsa tema bitsa le soto le ntshubutshubutsi le le ke mile re tile ke ka go thugamo ka riso mo matshelo la tshela proof is in the pudding hala ya living in the now look at beto I am ma tupa ga tutra ga phata bo hele tsa saka tuka ketele le tona ga ke thanye lo rile malepo this is like my website very territorial ketele le tona all up in the area you say the name the name pele re re se le lore bore bone re rare ra ditadiele la ditadi solo ha ka sa se ka ira se ka paka ditsi ditabe di hita kete ja moralo di mo ga mageta why dai wala bolela why dai tala mai mala mo tala ka ile ri ba me thalo sa ba di mo ba khala ba kgama tempo thomthom dibe tsa rona di heta le ba ba kileng ba thola legwako le gagela ga kobokwe marapo a tlhatswaga mo dikesing rapola ga sana napo sa ga metsi setse tampore sa sao sa rona kt ba ga motsete mota dipula motswaledi seretse kgamakwi boammaaruri thini ya tsebe nyorilwe lenyora le le borai thipa e thaba e tikwa ke ngwana ga mme o lenyora o nyoretseng le pele potswewe le lentse la gago tse sepero balangwa ko mashoro le poki mme le mpotse gore go ka teng Posetone khule kalang diri Itlhaloganyo re tswetse ga re apele lona letsatsi le thapi le be le phirima
Check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check.